So far in this lesson, which by the way is Chapter 3, Part D, you've edited the shapes and you've changed the fills, but we haven't really done much with the strokes, which are a visible outline or the border of an object or a path. Every shape and path by default is created with a one-point black stroke. You can easily change the color of a stroke or the weight of the stroke to make it thinner or thicker. Strokes are also aligned to the center of a path by default, but you can change the alignment to the inside or the outside using the stroke panel. Now we're going to select the bottom rectangle that's below the circle, kind of, sort of. Select the zoom tool and click that rectangle once to zoom in. Let me do it twice just because I can. And we might need to get rid of, you might need to move the transform panel if you want to, just to get it out of the way. I want to get this up where we can really see it. Okay, now I'm going to go back and get my selection tool and click on this again, and I'm going to click the word stroke up here in the control panel to open up the panel, the stroke panel. In the stroke panel, change the stroke weight from 1 point to 5 point. Just click up 1, 3, 4, 5 points. The stroke of the rectangle is centered on the path. That's the default. We're going to select Align right here to inside. This aligns the stroke to the inside edge of the rectangle. While the stroke is still selected, or while the rectangle is still selected rather, we want to click the stroke color right here. So we're going to change it to one of the yellow colors we used earlier, which is this one. And click on that, make that change, and hit your escape key to close that panel. We're going to now hold down your Shift key and click your X key. That's a shortcut to swap the stroke and the fill colors. And now click off to the side to deselect, or go to Select, Deselect. Save your file. You can save quickly by, since you've already saved it, just by going Control S. It's the shortcut to save. If an object has a closed path, like the rectangles or the circle, you can select an option on the stroke panels to align the stroke along the path to the center, which is the default, the inside or the outside, for any closed path. Now we're going to work with straight lines and line segments, which are open paths, to create another lamp. Shapes can be created in many ways in Illustrator, and the simpler way is usually the better. So let's go up to View and fit the artboard in the window. Select the Zoom tool in the Tools panel. Click once in an empty area near the upper left corner of the artboard to zoom in a little bit. Go back and reset your essentials if you need to, and collapse the library. So far we've been working in the default preview mode. It makes us see the objects with the fill and with the colors on the stroke. If a paint attributes are distracting, you can work in outline mode. We're going to do that right now. So go to View and select Outline. It removes all of the paint attributes. And remember, you can't select an object by clicking in the middle of the shape because the fill temporarily disappears. We're going to click and hold down your mouse button on the star in the Tools panel, and we're going to select the Ellipse tool. In a blank area near the top of the artboard, draw an ellipse that's about 1.5 inches wide. When it's really narrow, because we only want it to have a height of 0.1. So we're only looking for 1/10 of an inch in height, but 1.5 inches long. There. Now I'm going to pick up the direct selection tool, and I'm going to drag across that top anchor point to select just it. Come on. There we go. Dragging across the path will select the line segment and the anchor points associated with it. If you drag across an anchor point in a path, you also select the aligned segments on either side of that anchor point. Well, what we're going to do right now is we're going to go to Edit, and we're going to Cut, and then we're going to choose Edit, Paste in Front. That creates a new path which is directly on top of the original, but only the top half of the ellipse. And now it's a single path because that's what we selected in the Direct Select tool. So now with the Selection tool, we're going to pick up the bottom half, and it only will select the bottom half because we split them apart. Hold down your Shift key and press your down arrow 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's moving the line straight down. Pressing the arrow key moves the object by 1 point by default. When you hold your Shift key and press the down arrow, it's going to move the object 10 times more at 10 points per arrow press. So every time you move your key or you touch your down arrow with your Shift key held down, it's going to be 10 points every time. So now we're going to go back and we're going to pick up the line segment tool, but first we want to go View and Fit Artboard in Window again. This time we're picking up the line segment tool. I want you to pick and put the point over the center of the path we just moved down, and we're going to, not from the top, we're going to do it from the bottom. Okay, when you get anchor, I want you to press your Shift key and you're going to click and drag down until you get about a 2.5 inch long line. 1.22 and, whoa, a little too long, 2.5 inches, 2.49. Well, I think 2.49 is as close as I'm going to get because it tries to latch on to the center point of my other anchor, or my other rectangle over here. So that's close enough. You can measure that with your distance tool as you're drawing. Remember to release your mouse button before you Shift key. Okay, so now our line is selected, and already because we just drew it, we're going to change the stroke weight from 5 points to 9 points. And in the control panel, change that color to black. So now you want to deselect, and make sure you save your file again. Now, suppose you drew a U shape and you decided later you wanted to close it in. In other words, joining the ends of the U with a straight path. If you select the path, you can use the join command to create a line segment that runs between the endpoints, closing the path. When more than one open path is selected, you can join them together to create a closed path. You can also join the endpoints of 2 separate paths. So we're going to join the 2 paths up at the top to create a single closed path. Take your selection tool and drag a selection marquee across the two paths. Just don't select that third line that we just drew. Now, we're going to go to Object, Path, and Join. Notice the anchor points on the left side are now joined with a path. Now, so I'm going to undo what I just did because I can do this all in one thing. So I've got those two paths selected. Remember, I just selected here. I'm going to go to Object, Path, Join, puts the line here, which you can't really see with the bounding box there. But when I go Object, Path, Join again, now you can see both sides are connected. And if I click off to the side, I'll see the path is closed. When you apply the join command to two or more open paths, Illustrator first looks for and joins the paths that have endpoints stationed closest to each other. This process is repeated every time you apply the join command until all the paths are joined. If you only want to fill the shape with a color, you don't have to join the path to make a closed path. An open path can have a color fill. However, if you want a stroke to appear around the entire fill, you have to join the paths. So let's go back to View and Preview. We want to select those join paths and press the letter D on your keyboard to apply the default black 1-point stroke with a white fill. Change the stroke weight in the control panel to 2 points. You can just click the up arrow. And now select the ellipse tool and click on the artboard. In the ellipse dialog box, change the width to 1.1 and the height is going to be 0.35, 35/100ths of an inch. Click OK. Now change the fill color to black and change the stroke weight to 0. Stroke, you have to actually type in the 0 or select the down arrow, 1, 0, and we want the fill color to be black. Now, press the letter V. That gives you, that's a shortcut hotkey to give you the selection tool, and drag the ellipse from the center down to the bottom of that path that we just drew, and kind of drag it down to where the center snaps to the bottom of the path. Remember, when you draw, you create lines called a path. A path is made up of one or more straight or curved segments. The beginning and end of each segment is marked by anchor points, which work like pins holding a wire in place. A path can be closed or it can be open, like the line we drew, but that one will have two distinct endpoints. Both open and closed paths can have fills applied to them.